Thank you for joining us for this month's episode of Veterans Voices. This month we'll be interviewing Lieutenant Commander retired John Pucillo of the United States Navy. We'll be hearing about Emile Danjou and his time on board USS Dorchester and the story of the four chaplains. And we'll be hearing from John about the Day to Benefit Veterans here in Marlborough. All right, welcome back. And for this month, our interview with the veteran is with Lieutenant Commander retired John Pucillo of the United States Navy. Yeah. Welcome, John.
Yep, thanks for having me. Appreciate to be here. Yeah.
All right, thanks. So if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were born and raised?
Sure. Well, actually, I was born in Framingham, 1973, and my folks lived there for about a couple years, but then they quickly moved to Marlborough because they love this place, so they still live here, and I was raised here. So I went through the whole elementary, middle school, high school, and for the longest time, for my service, I watched Top Gun, and I wanted to be a pilot for the longest time. And I went in there and I took a few tests, and the Navy looked at me and was like, "Son, you're just too dumb. How about some explosives?" And I said, "Sign me up." And then I went into Explosive Ordnance Disposal, the bomb squad for the layman's term of that. And it was surreal because, I couldn't be a pilot, but I could I could sling explosives all day long, and that's all right.
Yeah.
So it was pretty fun. 1991, I went in right out of high school. I wish I could tell you that I was the hero back then that I am now, or however you say that, but I was just a kid that didn't know what to do, and this was a great opportunity to start my life and to actually learn about the world and go see different things, and I wanted to travel, and so I took advantage of that. And the funny thing is you stay in the service long enough, maturity gets you, and then you start realizing that the world is a lot bigger place than you thought it was in little old Massachusetts. And then that started settling in, and when I got the full impact of actually saving lives and disarming bombs and helping other countries or helping other forces with their problems, whether it be explosives or border security or what have you, the whole weight of it got on me, and I decided to become an officer, which is a little bit rare because I did 10 years as enlisted, and then they say going over to the dark side, so I'm a little bit of a Mustang, Navy speak, and that's shifting from enlisted to officer, and then now I'm leading the teams that I was once a part of, and so I'm still part of it, but I'm leading. The big deal about that is I have the background experience. I was trained as an enlisted person, and then I went to officer. A lot of officers come in, they don't get that training right off the bat. They get the training, but they have to build their experience as they're leading the detachment. I was able to have 10 years of EOD experience before I got into the leadership, which helped out a lot. So that was also a big reason why they selected me to go to Iraq with my team, because I had that experience, and I was one of the few officer team leaders out in the field outside the wire. As you know, as you can see, I got tagged in Iraq by a roadside IED. We got ambushed out there 19 May in 2006, and thankfully the guys that were in the truck with me, my guys, they were minimally hurt. They were able to do their procedures and get me out of there in a short order, and I was very proud of them. They continued the fight. They stayed there. I had to be, obviously, once you lose a leg, they want you out of the battle space so as quick as possible. So I went over to Walter Reed to do my rehabilitation. And, my family thinks I'm a slow learner. I'm pretty sure I am, because instead of getting out like most disabled veterans at that time were doing, I decided to stay in 12 more years. I wasn't quite done with the Navy yet, and I continued my career as an officer, as an EOD tech throughout the time that I had. In 2018, I finally retired, decided to come home to Massachusetts, and here we are. Now, post-retirement, I'm looking at taking care of other vets. I'm what you call a known quantity in the VA world, right? I'm missing a leg, I have a Purple Heart, a Bronze Star. They know what to do with me. There's so many other veterans that on a sliding scale, right? They don't have everything that I have, luckily for them, but unluckily for them, that they have other things that may not have been captured, or they may not have been recorded correctly. And so we're kind of struggling to get these vets the benefits they deserve, while at the same time trying to get them funded in the meantime before the VA comes online, or for any other government benefits come online. And I find that the entire, I feel like I've lived 3 lifetimes in the 27 years that I've been in the military. The third one was, the EOD part. The second was the taking care of veterans. And the third, in the middle of rehabilitation, the Paralympic Society came up to me and was like, "Hey, you know what? We need a one-legged guy on a sailing yacht that we need to, race for the Beijing 2008. Are you interested?" I'm like, "Sign me up." So I did a year of Paralympic training, and we got beat out in the finals, so we didn't go to Beijing. But the whole year was amazing, just to work with the Paralympic community for that year to compete in the hopes of going to Beijing 2008. And so again, I've lived 3 lifetimes, and I'm trying to get some of my own veteran brothers and sisters to come up and actually, share some of their story, and actually get a community, tighten up our community a little bit and get together and, and see what we can do for each other. Because I fully believe that when we're unified, we can get a lot more done than if we're just going off in different directions. So that's a little bit me in a nutshell. How was that? Do you have any other questions? Or
Yeah, I mean, really just a little conversation.
Yeah.
It sounds, I mean, I had heard about you. I've briefly met you before.
Yeah.
But, kind of wanted to just hear about some of your organizations. I think we're going to hear about that later in the show.
That's right.
But yeah, you've been giving back to the veteran community for a while, and that's a wonderful thing. And I do think that you're right. We need to, tighten up, but collaborate better with our veterans organizations here in town, not only through like veteran services, but also our veterans posts.
Yeah.
And I think right now we're kind of at a good point with some great folks that are involved with the different organizations here in town: Disabled American Veterans, the AMVETS Post, the Italian American War Veterans, and the American Legion, to really have a presence here in town.
Yeah, and there's so many great Americans that just want to come together and do the right thing, and I'm in awe every day. I mean, we'll get to this later on in the show, but the board members that I have that work with me to make my organization or our organization a reality, I mean, they're incredible people. I mean, they have 3 to 4 jobs inside the organization, and then they have to go buy food and go pick up the kids and go shopping for clothes and go to their work. So just the amount of effort and work that they put in to make this a reality, just I'm humbled and awed. So,
and the members of your board, are they all veterans?
Some of them are. It's like a half and half split.
Yeah.
We have half veterans and half just regular civilians that are just like, I'd like to do more. And they, like I said, they all step up and they do as much as they can, for their time, and they all pitch in. And we've had, this is our 5th year doing it, and like I said, I couldn't be more proud of them. They really step up and knock it home every year. So,
yeah. So we're excited to hear about the program, the Data Benefit Veterans.
Yeah.
We'll be hearing about that a little bit later in the show.
Yeah.
I did just want to highlight that not all of the veterans all members of your board are veterans, because there are quite a few people, I think, in the community here that aren't veterans but want to give back to the veteran community.
Yeah,
I really enjoy that about.
Yeah, there's many. So I always tell people, and I hear this a lot. It's like, oh, I should have joined or I should have stayed when I joined. There's many ways to serve your country. And it doesn't always have to be the start and finish of a service. That's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I'm a proud member of the armed services, but there's many ways to serve your country. So if you're a civilian and you want to get involved, all it takes is raising your hand and stepping forward, and that's it. And then after that, it's all automatic.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
People love the help, and you may not expect it, but you might impact someone's life greatly. And that's a great feeling. So
yeah. So with your time in the Navy, obviously you have quite the varied career between officer, enlisted, and your experiences with being a combat wounded veteran. Is there any stories you'd like to share? Any places that you particularly were able to travel to that were memorable?
Yeah. So I guess the story that everyone always asks me is about how I managed to handle the boom, if that's a good way to put it. But so when I was hit in Iraq, I was evacuated out of to Langstill, Germany, then on to Walter Reed. Did my rehabilitation there, and I was I don't know if you want to call it fortunate, unfortunate. There was no question with my disability, like the blast had taken the leg, and unfortunately or fortunately, it's a weird subject. Some people were blown up, but they didn't take the entire leg, so they were doing limb salvage on these legs, which was still kind of a new procedure. Basically, what that is they try to put it back together again and hope that the cells kind of recombine and regenerate a little bit, and actually you can have some function of your original leg. And one of the most heartbreaking things is that I went back to work about a year later as an amputee because I knew it was gone. So I was able to start my rehab immediately. Where some of the limb salvage folks, they were still there 3-4 years later, and they were coming up to me asking me if they should cut off their limbs because how do you answer that? So that was one of the challenges that I had to kind of it's funny, I just got used to being a big deal in the Navy, and all of a sudden now I was a big deal of people coming up to me and asking me about how to take care of their medical stuff, as far as should I lose my leg or not? I mean, how do you answer that? People were, we had, and this is why I got involved with veteran care and veteran assistance. Okay, because the veterans are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you get, and they're varied, and it's from start to finish. It's all different. All right, so. I remember going through the line at Walter Reed, and moms and fathers would come up to me and say, "My son just got hit. My daughter just got hit. They looked well. We don't know if they're going to make it or this. I mean, we see you like the way you are. You're doing well. What can you tell us, right?" And I would have for the longest time I still have this in my shadow box at home, which is the retirement box that you put all your paraphernalia in for the military. It was my ID card that they took a photo of me about 3 days after I got blown up. The reason they did that is because everything else in the truck burned down. So I couldn't travel without an ID card, for the military. So they had to take a picture of that. I used to carry that around because when I got that question, I would pull that out and it showed me not in a good way. And I'd say, look, this is how I looked. And this is probably how your daughter or your son looks right now. They'll look like this. You just got to give it time, and that would just, the relief on their faces and this, that, and the other, and, stuff like that was just tremendous. All right. And that started me down the path of understanding that, there's a lot of differences in veterans here. We got veterans who have silent injuries like PTSD or TBI or, demons that they can't control. We have veterans that have missing limbs, or veterans that were blown up, but otherwise they're in one piece, but they were shocked, So how do you develop a program or a system to cater to all these veterans? It's almost impossible, right? So the government does its best. It has its regulations. The veterans understand it because we understand rank and file. We understand that, hey, this guy needs to have this service because he's lost his leg. This guy, not so much, and all the way down, all right? But there's still things like, well, this person didn't have their paperwork done correctly, so now they're in limbo. Limbo is where most veterans, they get lost, all right? And we're trying to get into the limbo and try to get them out of that, you know what I mean? At least give them, a left and right of, hey, this is the benefits you deserve. If you're missing some stuff, come talk to us. We're going to put you in the right place for the right charity that could help you with whatever you're not getting at this time, and kind of build their life that way. Because what I like to say about veterans, most time if you help them, as soon as they start their wheels turning, they're off. You don't have to help them again. They will just go. And half the time they'll spin around and come help somebody else. That's just how they do, That's how I did. So that's a large reason why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. And I'm proud to be working, like I said, with these great Americans that have the same mindset, and they're looking to help wherever they can. So, yeah. But it's an ongoing battle, One of the other comments I always get is, "Oh, you're doing fantastic. You've overcome your disability. Great." And I go, "Nope, I've overcome nothing. I overcome this every day. Every day I have to put on this leg. Every day I have to figure out how to use it, because life throws curveballs at you, believe it or not, all the time, all the time. So I'm figuring this out on a daily basis. Now I've gotten good at it, but life still throws me for a loop. 24 inches of snow. That's a big loop. That's a big loop that it'll throw you for, So so navigating the streets when it's slushy or icy or that's another thing that, you have to overcome. So the reason I say that is because a lot of people look at a veteran and they're quiet. Oh, that guy's fine. He's not. Are you sure? Did you ask him? Is his water heater working? Is he getting food on the table? Is he getting clothing for his family? I mean, ask him, because vets, we're savers. We want to save other people. We're not into people saving us. I for a time I had to, I was not getting all my benefits until, a couple of the veterans cornered me. It was like, hey man, you're the other people they're talking about. Okay. You need to get these benefits, and again, that opened my eyes to if I'm doing it, if I'm doing that to myself, how many other veterans are doing that to themselves, So that's a good reason to get in there and start getting the word out and showing them that, hey, here's another path. Let's do this. Let's not do that. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So.
So for any veterans in the audience that are listening, if you're in that limbo that John talked about, definitely there's a lot of avenues here in the city for you to reach out to. Our veteran service agent, the veterans posts, and we'll hear a little bit later about the Day to Benefit
DAV,
Veterans. DAV,
VFW, all those are good posts to get with. And they do a great job of vetting, understanding what type of veteran you are, and then getting you positioned into the right spots, for maximum success.
Yeah. All right. And the only other question I have is, when we have our guests on to talk about the Navy, everybody sees the Haze Gray and underway. Obviously, EOD is a little bit of a different community. How many folks are in EOD?
I retired in 2018, so I don't know the exact number, but I think our force was like 1,500 folks at the time. Just EOD, and then the EOD got consolidated into what's called the Naval Expeditionary Combat Command. I'm not sure if that still exists. I think it does, but that has CBs. Few other folks, Riverine squadrons, Riverine squadrons, and so that organization I think is about 5,500 total across the force, and give or take, But the good thing about that is that it's really like one-stop shopping under one roof. So that's the nice thing about that organization is they're able to cater to a lot of different in the seam. They're not blue water Navy, but they can get into the muddy waters and and operate there, because the Navy needs some of that as well too. So, and as far as ships go, EODs do have debts that on carriers, but we hop on that. We just can't get enough EOD techs. And during the Iraq-Afghanistan wars, they were just like, we need you guys, period. I mean, we just couldn't make enough EOD techs to fill the need, and that still carries over to today. Because they need us here, there. If we're not doing something with America, we're getting with another country or another country's forces, and we're helping them with their issues or their demining process or whatever they have. But we are super busy, so I don't think that's changed too much since 2018. I think if anything, they've gotten a lot busier. So,
But 1,500 folks in the entire community, it's quite a small community.
Yes, it is a small community. Yeah. And like I said, I haven't checked lately on where our growth or whatever. But, and then that's just the Navy part. We have Army, Air Force, and Marines as well. So.
Just to give the viewers a little bit of an understanding about the size and the of the EOD.
But like I said, we're good force, just very small, very tactical. Just need to handle the kind of out of the box problems, if you will. So
all right. Well, I think, John, that's a really great interview. Thank you so much for coming on. And with that, we'll be taking a short break. All right, welcome back. And for this month's Veterans Profile, we'll be learning about Emile Louis Danjou. Emile was born the 20th of January 1904 in Marlborough, Massachusetts, one of 4 children born to Elziar and Georgina Danjou. He's a member of the Marlborough Fish and Game and an avid outdoorsman. He made his home with his sister at 204 West Main Street. While working at the Johnson Claflin Company, he enlisted into the Army Air Corps the 15th of August 1942. Following his basic training, he was sent to school to become a parachute rigger. Assigned to a unit in Europe, he was aboard the United States Army transport Dorchester the 3rd of February 1943 when the vessel was torpedoed by U-223, 100 miles from Greenland. The vessel sank in 30 minutes, taking 674 men with her, including Emile. His name is memorialized on the Tablet of the Missing on the East Coast Memorial in Manhattan, New York. A cenotaph in his memory is located in St. Mary's Cemetery in Marlborough, Massachusetts. Danjou Drive in Marlborough is named in his honor. All right, and for this month's Veterans Program, we'll be hearing about A Day to Benefit Veterans. So John, would you like to tell us a little bit about A Day to Benefit Veterans?
Yes, well, thank you very much for having me. And so I'm the president of Day to Benefit Veterans. We're in our 5th year. This year we're going to be at the American Heritage Museum October 18th between the hours of 11 and 6. And we've got 6 bands set up currently, and we have food going to be presented there, basket raffle, cash raffle, silent auction, and maybe if we're kind of still working out the details, but we're going to try to do a little bit of a merger with the American Heritage Museum. We might include some tickets to the museum and as well as to our event. And we don't know how that looks just yet, but we're working on that. And I think that's going to be doable by October. But briefly, these fantastic people, great Americans from Marlborough and Hudson area came together and said, you know what, we need to do a little bit more for veterans in our society. And they wanted to focus on local citizens helping local vets. And that's what we started at. And it was a great success right from the word go. And in our first year, we put it together in less than 2.5 months. And that's incredible. And it's a whole day of, bands volunteering their time. At the time we were at the Hudson Elks, and they were a great venue for us. We just outgrew them, and as things go when you get bigger. But they handled all the liquor, they handled all the parking and everything like that, and they gave us the space. And then we had the prospector, Bob Kays, one of our founding members as well. He donated all the food, and then all of our supporters and all the banks that have supported us. We have their banners up on the day of the event, so people can see that it's not just it's grassroots, but it's also the larger corporate community coming together to help veterans out. And we struggled on how do we make the most impact? How do we get there? We're not a 911 service. We're not a break glass in case of fire service. All right, because we just can't be set up that way. We can't have a crisis line. We're just not that. We're just too busy for that. We're all volunteers. We have 3 to 4 jobs within our volunteer charity. Then we have to go to work or pick up the kids or go to school or what have you, run a business. So that's a very impactful time crunch on my volunteers. So we try to do what we can in the limited time and space that we have. And basically what we found is this. I'm sad to say that the suicide rate for veterans and active duty members is still too high. It's I checked it a few years ago, and I hate looking at it, but at the time it was 22 veterans a day, commit suicide. And I don't like that number at all, and neither does the community, right? So how do we attack that? Well, at the same time, we're noticing that we're losing membership in the various American Legions, VFWs, the ITAMs, whatnot. And we find out that it's a generational gap, right? The older gentlemen, the older veterans, right? They enjoyed sitting at 2 o'clock and swapping sea stories or war stories and talking about their time in the service over a beer or two, and then going home, and that was better for them for it. But as time goes on, the newer veterans, myself included, right? We enjoy a cocktail every once in a while too, but we're more into kayaking or having a barbecue or doing an activity or traveling or doing something like that. So bottom line is that the posts weren't really set up for that, because they were just, they were set up for the previous generation. So now we're in the process of trying to get the posts all working together, which is almost, I won't say it's unheard of, but it's the collaboration that we get between all the posts, because they're usually, well, this is my world, that's your world. Now the worlds are mixing. We're trying to get the world to come together. So each post is helping each other out, right? So when we get that membership, when we get those veterans in, okay, and we give them the activities to do stuff, chief activity now is helping other veterans. We get that, then we start attacking the suicide rate, which is what we want to do. We want to drop those numbers as much as we can. We feel that a veteran who's engaged, who's working, or who's helping other veterans, just a lot less likely to have a mishap or something like that. So that's where we live, okay? And generally we collect funds from the very charitable donors in Massachusetts to give to organizations like Second Chance Cars. Real brief, Second Chance Cars is basically a person donates an old beater to the car company. They refurbish the entire car, and then they present it to a veteran, who deserves it, who's gone through the process, the vetting process, through the VA, through them, and they get them to go to work, pick up their kids after school, go to medical appointments, right? Where before the veteran was biking or walking, right? And we just had 24 inches of snow, so that's just not going to work.
Nope.
You need a car, right? But they can't, prices today, veterans, if they're in a bad way or whatever, they can't do it. So this one organization does that for them. And for veterans, they do about 52 cars. So it's about a car a week for a veteran. And we had one at our event last year, we presented the car to him in conjunction with Second Chance Cars. And he said a few words, jumped in the car, drove away into the sunset. It was beautiful. Everyone was crying. It was just a great moment of just togetherness and just community, right? And the good news is we're getting bigger. So now we're going to the American Heritage Museum. Well, they cater to like the entire New England area, right? So we're in a more metamorphosis ourselves, because we're thinking, well, it used to be local citizens for local mass vets, but now if the money starts coming in from different states in New England, maybe we need to broaden our horizon and start helping vets across New England. And that's very exciting. It's very exciting that we started just with Massachusetts, but now we could be expanding potentially into the New England area. And who knows after that, if we continue to grow. So I'm very excited about that progress, and I'm very excited about what our volunteers are doing to make that happen. Again, we couldn't do it without the sponsors or the donors. And one of the things that I pride myself and my board members pride themselves on is that we try to do transparency, number one. Number two, 100% as close to 100% as we can is dollars in to dollars out to veterans. We hate holding on to cash. We want it all to the veterans as much as we can. Reality gets in the way, though. We have to pay our taxes, so we have to budget for that. We have a cash raffle at these events. We have to keep money back for the cash raffle. We have to buy, certain things like chairs or rent, actually chairs, stuff for the bands to actually do their music and stuff like that, the soundstage, which is donated now typically, but we'll see if that continues to go in the future. But stuff like that, where we have to pay for services, in other words, to continue to function. And so the good news is that everyone's a volunteer, and we try to get food donations and liquor donations as much as we can to make our one day a fantastic event. And basically the whole day is, we start off with military ceremonies, a color guard, national anthem, whatnot, the mention of the POW, MIA. We go right into the bands. We go right into our raffles and stuff like that. People are having a great time. They're eating a cheeseburger or fries or whatever. And they're listening to their favorite bands play their favorite music, and it's just 6 hours of just veterans meeting the citizens of the state and just having a good time together, And at the end of the day, we raise a whole bunch of cash that we then turn around and we give to these organizations, whether it's to rebuild a kitchen or to get vets more food at Christmas time or Thanksgiving. Those are the two popular times where vets are just, sometimes they forget themselves. Nobody wants to forget a vet or leave them behind, but the vets, they don't make themselves. They're just, like I said, a box of chocolate earlier. It's hard to lock some of these guys down or gals down. So we help these organizations do their job. I don't want them to stop to worry about money. See, that's why we're in existence. So they don't have to stop doing what they're doing. Put out one extra car, make one extra turkey dinner, Give one extra sweatshirt to a vet. You know what I mean? Let us worry about getting the money. We get it to you, and that way we build a community. And here's the beauty part of it, and wrapping it all up. When you do it like that, there's a lot of coordination. There's a lot of talking. There's a lot of community that comes together to make this a reality, right? And that I got to think it's good for the entire state and just for our society as a whole, And if you continue that, if you continue to expand that and broaden the border of that, then who knows where it'll stop? You know what I mean? Who knows where the people you can affect, the people that you can help, the impact on another person. We have people now reaching out to us going, hey, I see what you guys are doing. I want to be a part of it. That's fantastic. That's just adding more cogs to the machine to actually help the veterans. And like I said, all of this, we're hoping, you never know what flips the switch, but we're trying to get a hold on dropping that suicide rate and making sure a veteran doesn't have to worry about if his water heater is going to be taken care of, during the winter months here or wherever, car, there's a whole slew of stuff that vets from different ranges have to worry about. And let me explain this a little bit. So obviously I'm left leg amputation, retired, 27 years. I'm what is known in the VA and the Department of Defense as a known quantity. They know what to do with me. It's very simple. I'm missing a leg. I have all kinds of problems. I've served my country. I have a Purple Heart. Great. Get him the services he needs. Da, 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 da. No one says no to me. It's easy. But there are other veterans who haven't had their paperwork done right, who are not missing limbs, who have interior problems, who have PTSD, demons that they can't shake, all kinds of things that are just, like we talked about earlier, the limbo state, right? Some vets are like, I don't know if I should, I don't know if I'm worthy to get the benefits. And I have these talks with veterans. I go, did you serve? Yeah. Did you get out honorably? Yeah. Then why didn't you apply for this? I don't know. It's just not. And then you have to get the records, right? Because you have to prove that everything is in order, before the government starts accepting and giving out benefits to folks, which is good. It's a good stewardship of money. I don't fault the government for that at all. But it does create a little bit of a limbo space. And then in that limbo space, meanwhile, the veteran doesn't have a sweatshirt, doesn't have food, or doesn't have something. Pick something, whatever it is, right? So we try to fill that gap as well to get that veteran back on his benefits or started on his benefits. So again, and like I said, if you keep them moving and you get their wheels spinning, they'll take off on their own. And more often than not, they'll spin around and they'll start helping other people out. And that's exactly what we want. So that's in a nutshell is what we're trying to do, and we hope to continue to grow.
All right.
So,
Yeah, so I've seen firsthand the great things that A Day to Benefit Veterans has done. Working with the Veterans Council and the different posts that I've been going to meetings and getting a little bit more involved in town. I've definitely seen, people needing the help that they need, and the Day to Benefit Veterans stepping right up to help with that. And so that's
and we do it through the posts. So like I said, we're a small group, and we try to raise the money, but we don't have we're just not set up to like be a 911 or a crisis center. But the American Legions, the VFW, the DAVs, they've been in business for a long time. They have the resources to plug and play. They know how to vet a veteran. They know, okay, this is this type of veteran. He needs this type of services. So we can give money to them to get the services for the veteran. And that's the community ladder that we're building. And hopefully we have people just traveling up and down that ladder. And when we do that, I mean, who knows, nothing can stop us, right? We can just keep growing. So very proud of that.
Yeah. And thank you. Very appreciative of the support that Day to Benefit Veterans gives the posts in town. And so again, if any veterans are in the audience and interested in getting involved with any of the posts, we have the American Legion, the Italian American War Veterans, the Disabled American Veterans in the AMVETS post here in Marlborough. The Veterans Council kind of encompasses all those, and is a collaboration to work together to make sure that the veterans are getting all that they need. And we have great organizations like Day to Benefit Veterans to kind of help us, with some of the needs there. And if there's veterans that are in that limbo zone, like John talked about, come down to one of the posts, ask around. The person that may be able to help you, they might not be there that day, but there's people at each of the posts. and they'll know exactly who they are to help out. So yeah, at any point, any veteran needs help, just reach out. Yeah. So,
looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, John. It's been great talking with you today.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you having me.
All right.
Yeah.
And that concludes this month's episode of Veterans Voices. And thank you for joining us.